Welcome, dear colleagues and friends, to the ECOSOC Partnership Forum and to this spotlight session on achieving the SDGs and sustainable and inclusive recovery from COVID-19 through partnerships and sound governance. The vital role of local and regional governments. We are delighted as local authorities major group to welcome you all to put on the spotlight the actions of local governments in addressing some of the challenges of the pandemic within the framework of the Sustainable Development Goals. Thank you for joining us. Once again, United Cities and Local Governments, the Open Government Partnership and International IDEA are very happy to have you with us. And I am going to give the floor for opening remarks to one of my favorite mayors in the world, José Manuel Ribeiro from Valongo. Mayor, you've got the floor.
Well, hello, everybody. You shouldn't say that, Emilia, because it's a big responsibility. I'm a simple man with lots of passion. That's the point. Well, first of all, I want to say thank you. Emilia says is a very special person, very special person. Everybody that knows Emilia understands what I'm saying. You are also a very passionate, responsible. That's the point. Don't doubt. That's the point. So thank you for the invitation, and I hope everybody is okay, especially with your health, because that's the point. Without health, we have lots of problems. And about this partnership forum and the objective of our sharing today, and I know that the objective is to talk about the importance of partnerships, the importance of different actors, the importance of cooperation. What can I say in a simple way, respecting the time limit of Emilia's size? Well, I think that with this pandemic, we have to learn. It's like the trees. I don't know if you know about the trees. When a tree is hurt, the way trees heal themselves, it's incredible. In a way, it's a natural process that they kind forget parts of the problem to focus in different dynamics, natural dynamics. And I think, I know that I am trying to compare very different things, but we have to learn with nature. We belong to nature. So I think with this pandemic, we have to decide that we have to change things. We have some problems. We have to heal the problems of our local towns, of our regions. The pandemic gave us lots of information, showed us lots of wrong things that we are doing for the last centuries. So we have to learn. That's the first lesson. We have to learn with that. And if we want to implement the Sustainable Development Goals, and it's a great tool to have SDGs. Nowadays we have 17, but in the last years we have different tools, different objectives. One of the lessons we have from the pandemic is a great ally is to involve citizens, is to involve and to create different ways of government, of multi-level, not only vertical, but also horizontal, involving, empower people. Why? Because as we see every day with pandemic, nobody can fight and win a pandemic challenge without full cooperation of everybody. Try to imagine this. without the local capillarity, without the local governments, it is very difficult to implement whatever measure, whatever public measure you have. So it means that this is a learning that governments, not only at the national, but also at the local and at the regional level, have to implement. Work together, cooperate, engage citizen, empower citizen. And one thing we have also to learn is that with the pandemic, we found out that we were not planning the right way. We were running our communities, and sometimes without planning. And this pandemic gave us lots of insights about the importance of planning, of being transversal. And if you want to plan, if you want to do good planning, you need to engage people. You need to gather all the actors you can get. If you don't do that, you are not doing good planning. So that time of central planning, a very clever guy, a lone guy, he knows everything. No, that's wrong. That's another time. So forget that. And other lesson we have from the pandemic, you have, and it's not a lesson, it's something that governments, politicians found out. I want to say found out. It's that thousands, millions of citizens nowadays, they are very well prepared. We are living in a world with all this technology, with all these capability, tools. You have intelligence, you have a collective intelligence, an incredible collective intelligence. So if you don't use it to planning, if you don't use it to implement, so it means you are not learning nothing with this pandemic. And if you want to implement SDGs, you won't do it because you are not going to promote behavioral changing. That's the point. If we want to change, to really change, we have to focus our action in behavioral changing, not only from the citizen, but also of all actors. If you change citizen behavior, you will change the behavior of politicians more and more. So that's what I can say in some few minutes to respect Emilia's size, is that the importance of not being afraid of the energy, the civic energy, the will that everybody throughout the world, that everybody has to participate in this mission. The mission is to save our planet and to save humanness. So thank you very much, and have a great day. And obrigado, because obrigado is Portuguese, and it's a very great word for thank you.
Thank you very much, Mayor. We shouldn't be afraid of the collective energy, indeed, and we need to think about the capillarity at local level, or otherwise we will not be able to influence the behavior that will lead to transformation. So with that, I am going to Fabiana Goyeneche, the Director of International Relations and Cooperation of the City of Montevideo. Fabiana has the difficult task to facilitate the inputs of a very diverse group of people. I'm really pleased to have with us my president forever, the Deputy Minister Tembisile Kadimen, but also the president of the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, and a very diverse group of people that represent the local authorities, major groups, and the 27 organizations gathered around the Global Task Force that powers that major group. A big task for you, Fabiana. Thank you very much, and welcome from Montevideo.
Muchísimas gracias, Emilia. Buenas tardes a toda la comunidad que nos está viendo y nos está escuchando. Desde Montevideo es un verdadero honor poder participar de este foro, una nueva instancia en la que las Naciones Unidas y CGLU nos convocan para mostrar una vez más, para poner en evidencia la importancia que tienen los gobiernos locales y sus asociaciones para lograr que el multilateralismo trabaje por un futuro y por un presente mejor, ¿verdad? Y creo que las palabras del alcalde Ribeiro fueron bien claras, y en el sentido de que para construir una mejor respuesta para salir de esta crisis que nos ha generado la pandemia, la clave quizá no está en la gestión, sino en la gobernanza, ¿verdad? En la participación, en la acción multinivel, en la participación multiactoral también, y por eso tenemos este enorme desafío con un riquísimo panel que tengo el lujo de presentar, y la preocupación de plantearles que con el rico aporte que seguro tienen para hacer, les vamos a pedir que sus exposiciones no se excedan de los 5 minutos, así que no me voy a extender más para aprovechar el tiempo en lo que nos convoca hoy, que es a escuchar a estas personas que nos van a enriquecer tanto con sus aportes, y a quienes les vamos a pedir que nos compartan desde su experiencia cuál es, según ustedes, su punto de vista, el papel que desempeñan las distintas asociaciones en la consecución y en el alcance de los objetivos de desarrollo sostenible. ¿Cómo pueden esas asociaciones, entre los diferentes actores de la democracia local, cómo puede la transparencia, la rendición de cuentas, el uso de datos abiertos, fortalecer esta acción multinivel, esta acción multiactoral y la democracia participativa? Sobre todo contándonos desde su experiencia cuáles son los pasos que deberíamos seguir en el desarrollo a nivel internacional, desde los gobiernos locales, participando con la sociedad civil para imaginar el sistema multilateral del futuro. Nada más y nada menos, una rica discusión. Y por eso le vamos a dar la palabra en primer lugar a Joan van der Heyden, alcaldesa de la Municipalidad de Strathroy-Caradoc, presidenta de la Federación Canadiense de Municipios. Joan, la palabra es tuya.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon and good evening. I'm joining you from Strathroy-Caradoc in southwestern Ontario, Canada, on Treaty 21 territory. FCM represents over 2,000 municipalities in Canada. Its members represent 90% of all Canadians living in cities and communities of all sizes in every province and territory. In Canada, like in many other nations, local governments play a key role in how our countries fare on the global stage. Local governments are on the front lines of finding solutions to some of the most pressing global challenges, such as alleviating poverty, ensuring access to basic services, addressing inequalities, supporting local governments and economies, promoting culture as a driver of development, and coping with the impact of climate change. Big task. In partnership with the federal government over many years, we have worked together to build a stronger Canada. We've progressively deepened our partnerships to get more done for Canadians, and faced with the unprecedented challenges of COVID-19, we've worked together to keep people, communities, and commerce protected. We've kept frontline services going strong, and we've supported the most vulnerable among us when they needed us most. The COVID-19 pandemic has exacerbated many of the existing inequalities and shortcomings. Structural dissemination, social groups, regions of the world are among the most heavily affected by the health, economic, and social consequences of this pandemic, which brings with it a host of complex and intertwined and interwoven crises that you all understand. This pandemic has also shown how vulnerable we can be as individuals, as communities, and as a country. Going back to the status quo will not be enough. We need to build a more inclusive Canada where every Canadian and every community can take part in shaping and sharing our future. One way for us to do this has been to work in partnership with government and other stakeholders. I'm going to give you some examples. The Federal Municipal Rapid Housing Initiative, created mid-pandemic, is helping our communities create housing options for at least 9,200 Canadian households facing the reality of or risk of homelessness by repurposing available buildings and lands and by deploying modular housing. This initiative targets and addresses Target 11.1, which aims to ensure access to all for adequate, safe, and affordable housing. Continuing FCM's leadership on social inclusion, Canadian Women in Local Leadership is supporting local leaders and community partners to promote gender parity and diversity on municipal councils. Our Community Economic Development Initiative is supporting partnerships between First Nations and municipalities, fostering sustainable prosperity while laying the foundation for reconciliation. If we're to achieve the SDGs, we must also advocate and work toward more climate action on local level. The implementation of the Green Municipal Fund, and this is a permanent endowment provided by the Government of Canada and managed by FCM, has enabled local-driven green innovation in Canada. The Green Municipal Fund has brought to life some 1,300 sustainability initiatives, cutting 2.75 million tons of GHG emissions by helping communities switch to climate solutions faster over the past 20 years. Projects range from bringing contaminated sites back into productive use to building retrofits that reduce energy consumption and waste. Internationally, decentralized cooperation must be one of the mainstays if any of these serious pursuits of sustainable development are to be achieved. The urgent and intensifying nature of global challenges, as well as opportunities and innovation inherent at the local and regional level, imply an ever-increasing responsibility for each of us. Collectively, we must be driven by the central objective to empower and enable local and regional actors and their associations. It's imperative that we are all at the table when decisions are made. Collaborative capacity strengthening by sharing, as we are doing today, presents a key pathway to meet current and future organizational challenges. Thank you for the work you are all doing in fostering more livable and vibrant communities around the world toward the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals. Thank you for your time.
Muchísimas gracias, alcaldesa. Sus palabras son muy enriquecedoras y qué gran experiencia de la que podemos aprender todas las comunidades para seguir pensando en la recuperación post-pandemia, ¿verdad? Ahora vamos a tener el gusto de darle la palabra a Temsile Gnadimeng, la viceministra de Gobernanza Cooperativa y Asuntos Tradicionales de Sudáfrica. Tiene la palabra, viceministra.
Thank you very much, and to the fellow organizers, thank you very much, Emilia and the team, my fellow panelist members, and esteemed guests, ladies and gentlemen, greetings to you all. I must confess it is indeed a great privilege for me to participate in this spotlight session, which is about to talk about the local authorities and major groups which are also gathered under the Global Task Force to ensure that we open the partnership with open government way on how to do things in the international idea. The session comes at the time when there's a good global spotlight and is still very much focused on our collective fight and recovery efforts from the devastating COVID-19 pandemic. As you may all be aware, COVID-19 globally has led to a loss of jobs, struggling to make ends meet by families, family losses of deaths and colleagues. It has also exposed existing societal vulnerabilities. But on another term, COVID has afforded us an opportunity to seek more a just and equal society. So we can be able now to redefine our local and national development path. But I think on a second aspect, it has also allowed municipalities the space of who they can be, because we all of a sudden were consulted in what will make our communities better and how we'll reshape them, because government at both provincial and national levels were also engulfed with how they could assist municipalities or the local sphere to deal with the challenges that the pandemic brought. In our country, the president even went to an extent of introducing and further implementation the district development model, where all municipalities in the country are clustered around 44 districts, which is a regional government, you may put it, and creating a coordinated approach to improve, one, the integrated planning with regard to health issues, but also service delivery issues across the spheres of government, particularly at the local government. And the motto for this was one district, one plan, one budget, and one government. And we were able to put many frontiers of ensuring that all the issues that the Sustainable Development Goals receive unequivocal recognition, but also enforce the collective effort of involving all actors, even those that are outside government. At the local sphere, we work closely with business, we work closely with civil society, and we were able to put them to transform our society in general. So what was the meaning of this SDG 17 as they may be now? It was a coalescence of the efforts from these different actors around one common aspiration. To this end, 17 of these SDGs are crucial, and it is explicitly expressed that the need for innovative multi-stakeholder and cross-sectoral partnership is what COVID has taught us, but also could be what we would want to do going forward to secure victory for our municipalities. In our context, again, we have enshrined the SDG through our integrated development plans at a local government level, which is a sphere that is closer to the people, and a sphere only in the country which is mandated to engage openly and by law with communities. And this process is called integrated development plans, where communities themselves are given an opportunity to interact directly with government on their needs. So what is central in this? It is driven by public interest, and it creates participatory governance. So participatory government gets to be demonstrated through voluntary contributions, establishment, for example, of solidarity funds by business people to support the president, and community initiatives on how to deal with COVID were realized. So it is important that this constitutes a key instrument of ensuring that going forward, as government, particularly at the local sphere, we do not drop down on participatory approach at the demise of COVID, which is still yet a very physical part of us, but to be fully effective in ensuring that this partnership should firstly take into account that people exist, local government is key, but thirdly, that we can drive delivery together. The past few months have also been a reminder of the magnitude of risks around the climate and social crisis that has deepened over time. In the province that I am now, in the Eastern Cape, I'm blessed to have the Federation of Canadian Municipalities participating this side, helping our Eastern Cape municipalities, and we appreciate that partnership going on. But we have a fourth highest weather reaction, which is anticipated to be coming tomorrow with heavy rains. So that means in the past of December up until January, where the area, rural as it is and poor, has seen quite a lot of floods. And there is a pandemic, and beyond that, there are many actors, which makes all of the areas and rural municipalities more complex, but also interconnected in problems. So we need to make sure that there is a method of inclusivity from an international level to a local level. And thank you, Federation for Canadian Municipalities, for leading in some of this. Secondly, we also need a more integrated problem-solving mechanisms instead of unilateral approaches. The most serious challenges ahead of us are transnational in nature, and they would want us as governments, as countries, as regions to be able to be together. But thirdly, we need multilateralism, which must become effective to lead to efficiency. The international system I have learned there, including the workshops of the United Nations, need to be closer to all of us interested stakeholders to allow for inclusivity, innovation, and partnership. New digital solutions may have to be done, a space created for us to be able to meet this requirement. In conclusion, Program Director, I would like to thank the opportunity that I've been given, but also to reassure this gathering that we in South Africa are excited and committed to contributing to all the areas that will make our Sustainable Development Goals a reality, as they are even more relevant given the current conditions brought about by COVID-19 and other factors like climate change, which are persistently perpetuating our societies and economics vulnerabilities. Thank you very much and enjoy the deliberations further. Thank you.
Muchas gracias, viceministra, por sus palabras. Realmente es muy importante lo que usted nos compartía de cómo la salida de esta situación de pandemia y la búsqueda de un futuro mejor es realmente colectiva, y de la importancia de que dentro de los 17 Objetivos de Desarrollo Sostenible, siendo lo que estamos planteando el día de hoy, lo fundamental que es tener en cuenta el Objetivo 17 precisamente, ¿verdad? Y bueno, ya que estamos hablando de Objetivos de Desarrollo Sostenible, ahora vamos a tener el gusto de escuchar a Jonan Fernández, secretario general de Transición Social y Agenda 2030 del Gobierno Vasco. Jonan, tienes la palabra.
Hola, muchas gracias, estimados amigos y amigas. Agradezco a Global Task Force, a OFP y a IDEA Internacional la invitación a participar en este foro. Extiendo este agradecimiento al grupo principal de autoridades locales y a Region 4, a quienes represento en este evento. En esta primera parte de mi intervención deseo compartir muy brevemente la experiencia reciente del Gobierno vasco, que en este momento ostenta la presidencia de Region 4. La Agenda 2030 proyecta la cooperación global que necesitamos. El Gobierno vasco está plenamente convencido de la relevancia de la Agenda 2030, tanto para el conjunto del mundo como para cada país. El Gobierno vasco cuenta con una Secretaría General de Agenda 2030, dependiente del Departamento de Presidencia. Contamos con un plan estratégico de legislatura aprobado por el Consejo de Gobierno. Tiene 4 grandes ejes: divulgación social, coordinación y gobernanza en segundo lugar, en tercer lugar alineamiento, desarrollo y evaluación y en cuarto lugar compromisos tractores. Acabamos de desarrollar una campaña divulgativa en los medios de comunicación sobre la Agenda 2030. En las próximas semanas vamos a publicar una convocatoria de subvenciones para entidades sociales que quieran contribuir a su divulgación. Esta primavera ponemos en marcha un ambicioso programa de formación ciudadana divulgativa sobre lo que es la Agenda 2030, que pretende llegar a miles de personas en los próximos años. Hemos perfeccionado, junto al Instituto Vasco de Estadística, el sistema de indicadores de seguimiento del Gobierno vasco y de cumplimiento de la Agenda 2030 en base a los indicadores de Naciones Unidas. En materia de gobernanza, hemos creado el Foro Multiagente de la Agenda 2030, que está presidido por nuestro presidente, el Lehendakari. Participan todos los departamentos del Gobierno vasco, las diputaciones forales, que son los gobiernos territoriales, y la Asociación de Municipios y los ayuntamientos de las capitales vascas, junto a entidades que representan colaboraciones público-privadas y de la sociedad civil organizada. El método de trabajo de este foro se basa en la elaboración de planes de gestión con objetivos para cada ejercicio que son evaluados en memorias anuales. Por otra parte, estamos colaborando con el Gobierno español mediante la Secretaría de Estado de la Agenda 2030. En colaboración con nuestra propia Secretaría de Acción Exterior, participamos activamente en los principales foros de referencia internacional, en el marco de Naciones Unidas o de la Unión Europea, también de la OCDE o en plataformas como Region 4, CGLU, la Global Task Force, como en este caso. Es una muestra, cuento todo esto porque me parece que es una muestra de la contribución que un gobierno regional o subestatal puede hacer a la causa de la Agenda 2030. ¿Por qué este compromiso prioritario del Gobierno vasco? Porque estamos convencidos de que el desarrollo humano sostenible es una necesidad y es una oportunidad para el mundo, para el planeta, para la sociedad y para las personas. En nuestro país, en el País Vasco, hemos planteado que la Agenda 2030 sea concebida como un nuevo contrato social. Estamos promoviendo un diálogo sobre esta idea. Coincidimos en esta apelación con las reflexiones hechas por el secretario general de la ONU en su documento Nuestra Agenda Común. Esta declaración es una interpelación que requiere apuestas y compromisos. Planteo ahora en esta segunda parte, en nombre de Region 4 y del grupo principal de autoridades locales, una reflexión en clave propositiva. Una participación más representativa de los gobiernos subestatales y regionales es necesaria para mejorar el balance global de los objetivos de desarrollo sostenible. Valoramos positivamente el reconocimiento de la necesidad de un compromiso más sistemático con las autoridades regionales. Celebramos por ello la propuesta de creación de un grupo consultivo de gobiernos locales y regionales. Adicionalmente, los informes anuales voluntarios de nivel subestatal son un buen indicador. Tienen cada vez una mayor relevancia en el sistema de Naciones Unidas porque representan lo que se hace desde las instituciones más cercanas al territorio y a las personas. Desde el 2018, el Gobierno vasco ha venido remitiendo a Naciones Unidas informes anuales de seguimiento de sus compromisos con la Agenda 2030. El Foro Político de Alto Nivel sobre Desarrollo Sostenible de 2021 incluyó por primera vez una sesión oficial sobre revisiones nacionales voluntarias. La ministra del Gobierno vasco, que ostenta la presidencia de Region 4, puso voz a los gobiernos regionales. Termino. La implementación de la Agenda 2030 debe estar basada en prioridades territoriales. Recomendamos al sistema de la ONU que promueva aún más la inclusión y consulta a los gobiernos regionales. Tomar en consideración su experiencia puede contribuir a mejorar y ampliar la capacidad transformadora de la Agenda 2030. Creo que debemos ser autocríticos y no autocomplacientes. No estamos avanzando lo suficientemente rápido. La pandemia ha agravado los problemas y ha agrandado la urgencia de las soluciones transformadoras. Necesitamos una mayor proactividad en lo concreto y transformador. Gracias a todos y todas. De nuevo, tanto el Gobierno vasco como Region 4 quedamos a su disposición para poder ofrecer cualquier información adicional o para cualquier colaboración futura. Muchísimas gracias.
Muchísimas gracias a ti. Es muy importante lo que estabas aportando en cuanto a que los informes locales voluntarios están dejando en evidencia no solamente el gran aporte que los gobiernos locales tienen para hacer en el alcanzar los objetivos de desarrollo sostenible para el 2030, sino incluso lo imprescindibles que son. El hecho de que ya no podemos considerar posible alcanzar estos objetivos sin la participación de los gobiernos locales. Y ahora vamos a tener el gusto de escuchar a Alfredo González Reyes, responsable de la Agenda 2030 para el Desarrollo Sostenible de la Secretaría de Economía de México. Alfredo, qué gusto tenerte con nosotros. Tienes la palabra.
Hola, muchísimas gracias. Un gusto estar aquí con todas ustedes. Desde nuestra mirada, lo que necesitamos desde el punto de vista del gobierno nacional y lo que estamos haciendo en México es un diálogo constante y un trabajo cada vez más, digamos, profundo entre el gobierno nacional y los gobiernos locales. Quiero recordarles que México es un país grande y heterogéneo, 127 millones de habitantes con, digamos, niveles de desarrollo en distintos indicadores que son muy extremos. Somos un país muy desigual en una de las dos regiones más desiguales del mundo en términos de ingreso per cápita. Y eso representa retos importantes para este diálogo y este trabajo conjunto. Podemos encontrar estados altamente industrializados en el norte y municipios con altísimos ingresos comparados con ciudades de muy altos ingresos de cualquier país del mundo. Y en el sur podemos encontrar municipios con niveles de desarrollo en general muy bajos o con mucho rezago. Entonces, ¿qué estamos haciendo? Lo que estamos haciendo, lo que creemos que debemos seguir haciendo es, número uno, este diálogo constante para promover información y cohesión alrededor de una estrategia nacional a favor de la Agenda 2030 y frente a COVID-19 y sus impactos en muchas formas, desde programas conjuntos hasta talleres y formación continua, iniciativas para identificar y vincular de manera conjunta, por ejemplo, demanda y oferta de soluciones sostenibles. Hay un sinnúmero de problemas en algunos municipios de algunas regiones para los cuales ya otros municipios, otros gobiernos locales en otros lugares han encontrado solución e incluso mecanismos de financiamiento. Lo que se necesita ya alguien lo hizo en algún otro lado, y uno de los trabajos que estamos desarrollando a través de una plataforma es simplemente vincular. A veces eso es lo único que necesitamos, porque las soluciones ya están ahí. Las personas, los gobiernos locales, las comunidades ya están solucionando los problemas todos los días, y a veces solo hay que vincular la oferta con la demanda, digámoslo así. También estamos dialogando para promover el seguimiento y la rendición de cuentas sobre los avances en la Agenda 2030 y en los esfuerzos contra los impactos de COVID. Uno de los esfuerzos que están representados aquí o que representan a esto son la elaboración de los informes nacionales y locales voluntarios. Gracias a la colaboración de algunas de las colegas que están aquí representadas y de la cooperación bilateral y multilateral, hemos podido impulsar este ejercicio a nivel nacional y también ya en varios estados y municipios. Y eso es muy importante porque genera una lógica de publicidad de los esfuerzos, los resultados y de rendición de cuentas. Y revela cuáles son los temas de hoy y del futuro en distintas comunidades. El segundo tema es que creemos que hay que trabajar mucho más, estamos trabajando en él, pero el tamaño del país es un reto importante, es el diálogo con la sociedad civil a nivel local. En un país así de grande, tendemos a acercarnos a las organizaciones de la sociedad civil grandes que a su vez tienen sus propias redes locales, porque es eficiente. Pero creo que a veces cometemos el error de descansar en ello y dejar de conocer a personas nuevas, a organizaciones nuevas. Hace poco en una reunión yo decía a otras colegas que necesitamos cada tanto saber si de verdad estamos hablándole a personas a las que no conocemos y sobre todo a aquellas a las que no les caemos tan bien, para saber que estamos llegando a aquellos lugares donde no habíamos llegado antes en términos de sociedad civil, porque ahí está una fuente importante no solamente de demandas, sino también de soluciones. Y cerraría diciendo, entonces es un reto, estamos trabajando en eso, pero es un gran reto, sobre todo en un país grande y diverso. Y ya para cerrar diría, el ámbito local nos revela quiénes somos y qué necesitamos en cada país realmente. A veces estas conversaciones son muy abstractas y creemos que es cuestión de decidir y se nos olvidan las restricciones estructurales que se expresan en el ámbito local, que van desde mandatos de género que impiden a mujeres desarrollarse a pesar de que haya recursos y programas, hasta estructuras productivas, acuerdos comerciales y lugares que ocupamos en las cadenas regionales y globales de valor que nos impiden empujar transiciones energéticas o de economía circular rápidamente. Entonces, lo que digo es trabajar con y para los gobiernos locales y las comunidades nos ayuda a entender que no hay una sola transición, sino que hay varias y que para que sean factibles tienen que ser diferenciadas, coordinadas y justas en todos los temas de desarrollo sostenible. Ahí lo dejo, gracias.
Muchísimas gracias. Seguimos viendo el énfasis en los temas de desarrollo sostenible y la gobernanza y participación multinivel. Sin duda son los temas vigentes de los que nos tenemos que ocupar hoy en día. Y bueno, por último tenemos el gusto de escuchar a Alberto Fernández Guibaja, responsable de programas de International IDEA. Alberto, la palabra es tuya, te escuchamos.
Gracias, Fabiana, Emilia, and all my fellow panelists. It is a pleasure to share our input from International IDEA in this forum. And as you can understand, for International IDEA, for an organization with the sole mandate to support democracy worldwide, partnerships and open governance is part of our blood. It is democracy is fundamentally a partnership. Democracy is fundamentally openness of government. It's an agreement to work together and to do it transparently. We believe that democracy, and especially democracy at the local level, is one of the many enables, it's one of the key aspects that enable the SDGs. And of course, it's a precondition to the achievement of some of them. They are impossible to achieve without the principles and values that democracy entails. This is not only true for SDG 16, which is the most obvious one, which is obviously impossible to achieve, the level of accountability and responsive governance. It's impossible to achieve without democracy, but it is also true for other more, let's call them tangible SDGs. I'm thinking of SDG 4 on education, 3 on health and well-being, 10 on inequalities, of course, SDG 11 on the local level. So even if the word democracy is not named per se concretely in the SDGs, it is an enabler, and it is a fundamental principle that enables that. And democracy entails partnerships and it entails open governance. Without the level of accountability that democracy allows, it will be impossible not only to punish if something has to enforce and consequences, if something has not gone right in the delivery of services, again, in education, inequalities, health and well-being, water and sanitation. It also allows citizens to influence the agenda. It allows citizens to influence how policies are designed and are discussed. And of course, how the implementation of these services takes place. So, as all my fellow panelists already has stated, the role of partnerships, it's fundamental for the SDGs, both vertically and horizontally, meaning both among the different SDGs and the different components of the SDGs, as well as within each of the SDGs. And that's where, as I said, precisely democratic governance becomes more relevant. There is, the SDGs are a lot about providing services. So that's where this type of governance becomes more relevant. Let me give you an example of an experience that we at International IDEA have had working with the municipal government of Sucre, the beautiful capital of Bolivia, where we supported them, we worked with them to improve their services through democratic governance. And what did we do? Where we work specifically creating partnerships, sustaining partnerships with the government of Sucre, in order to improve the accountability of the government delivering services. In this case, we focus on education. We included all different elements of the educational system, users of the educational system, including children in the educational system, but also the ministry at the national level, the central government, local government, members of the local government, civil society, and all coordinated by the municipal government, by the local authority that was at the end responsible for the delivery of the service. And that experience gives us a lot of lessons, but two key things. The first one is the importance of open governance, how opening information, opening the system allows for better governance. Light is and remains the best disinfectant. And then the importance of institutionalizing partnerships. Partnerships are not a one-off event. They have to be institutionalized. They can be institutionalized. Local authorities should not be afraid of institutionalizing partnerships with civil society, with citizen participation, and also with the central government when this is useful. Democracy flourishes with the inclusion of citizens and the institutionalization of this. So let me close with just this remark, as Major Ribeiro already stated, the importance of engaging citizens in meaningful input. As policymakers, should be afraid of engaging citizens as policymakers, engaging citizens to know what actually means building back better, to hold you to account as a government, and to tell you what is not working. That's the only way we can make our democracies stronger and place any local government closer to achieve the SDGs. Thank you.
Muchas gracias, Alberto. Incluir a la ciudadanía para volver mejores. Creo que es una preciosa síntesis de lo que hemos escuchado hasta ahora en este riquísimo panel. Y ahora tengo el gusto de darle la palabra nuevamente a nuestra secretaria general, Emilia Saiz.
Well, muchísimas gracias, Fabiana. What a great job you have done. How much can be said in just a few minutes? Allow me to give the floor immediately for the wrap-up and concluding remarks to Thomas. Thomas George, the global lead on urban from UNICEF.
Thank you, Emilia. I've been following the panelists who came before me, and I agree with all what they said. Local governments are at the forefront of addressing any crisis, and they are the governments close to the people. So for people, it's so important that they see their local governments as powerful, empowered, and able to implement. During the COVID, we saw that most of the local governments across the world rose above expectations and was at the forefront of fighting the epidemic and the impact of the epidemic. But it's not always easy for local governments. We all know that. There are many actors involved at the local government level. They have to interface with many different levels of government. Finances are a problem. But still, with all the obstacles, they did a wonderful job. I would like to go to one of the first webinars we had with mayors as part of the UCLG's efforts. One mayor said that COVID as a crisis has exposed many hidden crises in cities. I think that sentence has been ringing in my ears all through. We all know that city averages mask inequities in cities. I think the biggest contribution of city governments or local governments is to identify these pockets of poverty, these inequities. And I think right now we have the urban monitoring framework, which is getting finalized, which gives a broad definition of what needs to happen, what needs to be done at the city level. So for me, it's very important that local governments take the lead in building evidence of what works, what doesn't work, where are the pockets where deprivations are there. We know that even when you look at child survival data or education data, the difference between the lowest wealth quintile and the highest health quintile is very high, very high. The second role of city governments, what I see, is to demystify this SDGs. SDGs are, it's very academic, it's very intellectual, but for people, it's not SDGs. For them, it's the basic needs and safety and protection and stuff like that. So local governments are the ones who bring the SDGs together, can lead an integrated program and demystify and make SDGs more, make sense of SDGs to people. I think that's one area. One of the panelists spoke about participation. There are many groups, vulnerable populations in cities who have no access to even the local government. I think local governments have a very distinct role to ensure that each and every one of these groups participate, including children who do not have voting rights. You have other groups like refugees, internally displaced people who are of a linguistic minority living in cities, especially when they are in a border area. So how can you ensure that these people are, these marginalized and vulnerable populations are also able to participate in governance? The third point I would like to make is, okay, evidence is one thing, but how can you translate that evidence into plans? A speaker before me emphasized the role of planning. How can that evidence be translated into plans, and not just stop with planning, but make sure that the plans are financed. Many times we see that you have excellent plans on paper, but they are not financed. So how can partnerships with different levels of government and other stakeholders like private sector or civil society, other international organizations finance the plans? And the fourth point, which UNICEF is also working on very clearly, is on coordination of services. In many countries, the implementation or delivery of services are not directly under the accountability of local governments, but might be under the deconcentrated levels of ministries, national departments, and so on. But local governments have a strong role to lead in coordination of services, to bring together the different actors and make sure that it is done. Having said that, I know that at the moment, the capacity of local governments are not uniform across the world. There are many countries, many states, many parts of the different regions where the local governments need that capacity building. I think going forward for us in UNICEF, one of the main areas of work is how to build capacity of local governments in the 4 areas I mentioned earlier, on building evidence, on better planning, on getting participation of poor communities and children into this, and the fourth one is on how to coordinate the services. And I think at the global level, apart from the capacity building, I think one area we can also focus is on knowledge exchange between cities. You know, there are many cities in the world where things work very well. There are many cities in the world where cities want to do something, but they don't know how to do it. So how can we cross-pollinate, fertilize the city governments and the local governments with good ideas? I'll stop here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Thomas, for bringing this important issue to the table. Indeed, about evidence, we need evidence. Indeed, I very much agree. But I also think that what this group has brought to the ECOSOC, to this partnership forum, is the need to have a vision as well. To their dream, to defend a political space where you are actually safeguarding the aspirations of communities. And the importance of not being afraid of this co-creation with communities is the next level of partnerships that we need to look at. It's beyond actors, it's beyond sectors. It's about defining new governance systems where the commons play a different role, where we go from service provision to care. And right now, service provision is probably not at the right space in the international discussion. So I want to emphasize how important it is for us to have governments, national governments like Mexico and South Africa listening and participating in this kind of session, because it is with the different spheres of government that we will need to construct this. And also why our constituency so very much agrees with the message brought by Regions 4 through the Basque government, that territorial approach to this agenda will be very, very critical. So I think we have given some ideas about paths to be followed for the transformation of partnerships. I also want to recall that we are revisiting or revising the state of implementation of the new urban agenda this year. And for our constituency, that is a true pillar for the achievement of the sustainable development goals. The Global Task Force, these organizations and our partners, IDEA and the Open Governance Partnership are at your service to help us think further, to hold everybody accountable, to improve our governance systems, and we are delighted that you have joined us today. I'm so sorry we don't have more time, but I do hope our messages have reached far beyond the 100 and some visitors that we have had today here. I know there are many others listening to us through the UN platform. Thank you again to all of you for joining us, and let us keep the good fight and this quest for equality and sustainable development. Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye. Thank you, colleagues. Bye.
Gracias.
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 Gracias, adiós.